Very pleased to be joined right now by the CEO, the man in charge over at Sporttrade, Colorado's newest premium sports betting experience. We're joined by Alex Kane here on the Kreckman and Lindahl show. Alex, welcome in. How are you? How was your November?
What's up, brother? I just enjoyed talking off there about getting our sports fix in, and I feel refreshed already. So let's do this.
It's a good time of year. The game I actually want to start talking about is one that's already been played, which is not normally something you do in a gambling conversation, but the game was insane. Sunday Night Football, Bengals Chargers. Justin Herbert is lights out in the first half of that game. LA goes up by 3 scores and then a couple of turnovers, and Joe Burrow gets cooking. Guy is playing it at MVP level, but his team is not winning. But he gets going. Suddenly we have a tie game. We go to the fourth quarter. The amount of changes of possession in the final 2 minutes of that game is nuts. McPherson misses a couple of kicks, and it ends on a J.K. Dobbins touchdown run, and the Chargers managed to pull that thing out. That game had everything, Alex. We tell people all the time, Sporttrade has the best live wagering experience in the industry. What was it like to watch the markets fluctuate on your site during that crazy game?
It was absolutely wild game. Unfortunately, I had the Bengals personally,
Ooh.
and it was yeah, that was I'd fallen. I told you I'd sort of turned the game off and then came back to it, sort of thing. We had a customer put about $14,000 down on the Chargers money line pregame.
Mhm.
Talk about a roller coaster. So he bought in at about 52% was the win probability pregame for the Chargers. And obviously, pretty quickly by the late first quarter, it started to look like a blowout into the second quarter. That win probability hit as high as 96% for him.
Mhm.
I'm sort of thinking, is that the chance to sell out? That means the 14,000 is going to pay out 96% of the whatever 30,000 he's going to get back. Decides not to do it. And then we know
Wow.
what happened next. All of a sudden, it looks like the Bengals are a great team again. And who was ever complaining about Joe Burrow for a quarter and a half? And now the Chargers come back to less than 40% chance winning. In fact, the Chargers hit, I think, as low as 35% chance before a couple of missed field goals and a couple gaffes here and there. And then ultimately, Chargers retain control of the football, drive down the field, and do what they need to do to win the game. So that game was absolutely crazy. And that is the magic of sports trade is that if you think a team's going to go on a run, like imagine if you had taken the Bengals at 4% odds in the
Mhm.
second quarter. I mean, they score a touchdown, another touchdown. Now they're at 50%, and now you cash out. That's the magic of the in-game experience on Sport Trade.
And we talk about that all the time with Sport Trade: buy low, sell high, viewing the odds as probabilities. We've been talking about it with hockey and with basketball. But Alex, explain that a little bit more, the in-game experience with Sport Trade and where people can really find an edge.
Yeah, I think where customers like to find edges is they like to wait until a team is not looking great. They like to wait because our prices are just probabilities that you sort of wait until the Golden State Warriors go down 10 points, sort of thing. The NBA is actually a great example of this. I know Denver's playing Dallas on Friday. Players like to look for an opportunity, particularly on the money line, but you could do this on spreads or totals or even player props or whatever. Wait until maybe Denver comes out of the gate slow. And maybe they're down to a 28% win probability midway through the second quarter. That's when you get in. You put your $10, your $50, or whatever. And then you just watch. Sports Trade's got this awesome UR where you can just watch the live win probability. So as it goes above 28% chance, your bet turns green, you can cash out for a profit. If it goes below 28% chance to win your bet, you can now cash out for a loss and things turn red. And so that's where players, particularly in things like NBA, try to find, okay, when is this team going to go on a run? When are they going to bring Jokic back out onto the floor? Because
Right.
that's when I'm going to take my position. And that's how you can, I mean, I almost think that sport trade is a not sports betting. I almost think it's a totally different activity because once you try it, You're like, wait a minute, I can now start buying stuff that I don't even think is going to win. I just want to see what's going to happen next. That's all the prediction I'm making. I could care less. I might not even be around to watch the end of the game 2 hours from now. I just think that Denver at 28% chance right now is great because they're going to end the first half really strong. They're going to shoot back up to 40%, and boom, I'm going to get out.
When
And
you
so
talk
that's how
about
players.
when you talk about viewing the markets in that way and using sport trade in that fashion, there is no player with a greater disparity in terms of what his team does when he's on the floor versus what he does when they're what they do when he's off the floor than Denver and Nikola Jokic. Now he's missed the last 3 games, and finally the Nuggets came out and got a win against Memphis last night. But you talk about that in that way, like suddenly the Russell Westbrook led bench unit that is in there with DeAndre Jordan or Sarge or whoever they've got as the big, and they're just giving the lead away. Well, don't worry, Nikola Jokic is going to come back with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, and Denver is going to be just fine. The Nuggets, to me, feel like maybe the perfect team for betting this way.
They're a great team for betting that way. That's a perfect example of how to think about sports trade, how sports trade allows you to think differently. And you can't really do this on another site, even though other sites allow you to cash out. What sports trade offers is first, you're able to see it based in probabilities, which I don't know, to me makes more sense. I'm going to bet this team at 28% odds. They're going to hit 40%. I'm going to sell. The same version of it on DraftKings is like, I'm going to bet them at plus 260, and then the new line is going to be minus 150, and then I'm going to sell. Like, that doesn't even work. Like, how would
Right.
that even, how do you square that circle mentally? But then the other key piece that's so important for sports trade is that you're going to get a fair cash out offer. And you can see how fair that cash out offer is by looking at the gap between the sell price and the buy price. And the closer that gap is, maybe it's sell 40%, buy 42%. That's a really tight gap. You're getting a really fair cash out versus on a sports book, they're saying, well, you bet 108, great job. It's doing well. I'll give you 130 for it. Sure, look at it. Wait, is this a good cash out offer? Is this a
Right.
bad cash out offer? On Sports Trade, we say, hey, you could sell at 40%. And if you sit there and go, nah, I think it's higher than that, that's a bad offer. I'm going to keep going. You have that ability to do that because Sports Trade gives you that transparency and is based on the one thing we all understand. We open up the weather app each morning and says 80% chance to rain. Sports Trade is the same concept, but for sports.
Avalanche beat your Flyers the other night. Couple of goals from Cale Makar. Let's talk about betting this way on hockey. Kind of walk us through how that works.
So the most popular live hockey bet, and it sort of makes sense if you think about it, is think about the game total. Hockey totals are very, very popular. The usual game total on a hockey game is somewhere in the range of 5.5 or 6.5. So let's take the Flyers game, for example. Under 6.5 is offered at maybe 52% chance. So players, what have they been doing is they've been buying the under. And if you can go 4, 5, 6 minutes of hockey time, the probability the under is going to go up because no goal has happened. So it's almost like that game of Rocket, if you've ever been in a casino, or like hot potato, like you want to wait until the last possible second. And obviously, as soon as a goal is scored, that's going to plummet the chances of the under. And so what we've been seeing is customers come in and say, I'm going to buy the under right now. And if I can just get 3, 4, 5 minutes of like goalless hockey, slowly but surely, every few seconds, my portfolio will turn green and more green and more green. And now the under 6.5 has gone from 52% to 60%. And you say, I'm out. And so it's the same idea, but it's a totally different approach because this is hockey. Hockey's, goals happen less often. Goals have a huge impact on the total. Versus in basketball, you can't really think of it that way because the game is so fluid. Points don't really affect the total from, possession to possession, unlike hockey. So that is how players are doing hockey, is that they're coming into like the total goals market and they're saying, I'm going to get the under right now. And if I could just wait till the right time to sell out, and if there's no goals that have happened, I'm going to make a profit.
Wait for that gold drought, baby. That's how it gets done. GetSporttrade.com. Download the app onto your phone right now. Let's talk a little bit of football before we finish up here, Alex. The Broncos are at Vegas to play the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Denver is coming off their best performance of the year in a huge win over Atlanta. The Raiders are a mess. We know what's going on with that team. Right now, the closest to 50% odds on Sporttrade is the Broncos as a 5.5 point favorite. Division game with a road favorite. However, it's Vegas, which is not a traditional road game per se. How do you tend to think about games that are played at Allegiant Stadium, which is such a non-traditional NFL venue?
I think that at this point, you'd hope that the market has sort of priced that in. But the market's also pricing in like it's a team with a rookie quarterback that's going to be in Vegas for the first time. So you have that aspect as well. Myself as a bettor, I think I can categorize myself as like the oldest of old school bettors. And when I look at games like this, I'm like, okay, the Broncos minus 5.5 is at 51%, to your point. I may not bet that. They're offered at 70% on the money line. You know, it's not the worst thing in the world to bet a money line favorite every once in a while. Yeah, sure, you're not going to win as much for how much you bet, but it's also priced in. It means you're more likely to win. In fact, 70% chance means 70% chance to win. So if I bet that game, I've been really impressed with Bo Nix. I do think that they're going to win that game. I think there's a good chance they cover. You could get that sort of really nasty backdoor cover sort of situation of, they're up 12 points and then, the Las Vegas scores and then, oh my God, now the 12 is 5 and you lost because of the hook and whatever. Taking the Denver on the money line is probably how I would play that game. 70% seems kind of low for like how in a rhythm Bo Nix seems to be. So that's how I would play that game. But of course, I'm not a betting professional.
Well, 70% is a good number, though. Guys, go to getsporttrade.com. Download the Sporttrade app onto your phone. You're going to love it. I promise you that. My favorite thing on Sporttrade, by the way, is the tape. Check out every single bet that is happening on the service in real time. You can follow the sharp money, or you could say, I'm fading those dudes, and see how it all works out. But go to getsporttrade.com. That is Alex Kane. He is the CEO, the man in charge over at Sporttrade, Colorado's newest premium sports betting experience. Alex, well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.